What up, everyone? It's your boy Sly Lancy. Welcome back to the channel. Man, I really love you guys because you guys always tune into my videos. Like, almost every single one of you tune into almost all my videos. And I want to take the time out and say thank you always, guys. Thank you for tuning in whenever you can. You know, it really means a lot, and it pushes me to want to do more videos for you guys too. So, but yeah. Okay, so let's get back to business. Yeah, guys, here we are back with some more Sly Cooper content, and in today's video, we're gonna be covering Sly 3: Honor Among Thieves. Now, this game is probably one of the most divisive games in the entire series. I dare to say it's probably the most divisive, easily, right next to another game that we'll get to. But yeah, so Sly 3: Honor Among Thieves. Now, people go back and forth on this game. How do I feel about it? Well, we're gonna find out. So let's do this. Now, Sly 3 was my very first ever Sly Cooper game, and I loved everything about it. And I got this game when I was 10, 11 years old. I know I was in 5th grade when I got it. That is definitely for sure. But what happened afterwards? Well, okay. So after having time to play this game through and through, and then, you know, having the chance to play the other games as well, my overall opinion on Sly 3 has been broadened after years passed and having a chance to play every single game afterwards. So let's see. Okay, guys, so as usual, let's start off with the cover. Okay, so this cover, while I like it and it's very striking in a way, there's an issue that I have with it, and that's the fact that it just feels different from the first two covers that we got with the first two games. Like, the first two covers just felt very thiefy and very, like, you know, subtle and stealthy. This cover is like really in your face, and I'm not sure how I feel about it completely. It's still good for what it is, but it just, like I said, it feels very in your face about stuff. So, despite how well the PS2 consoles have been selling, Sony wanted to make a third generation console for the PlayStation product. So, in 2001, they began development of a new console. And 5 years later, that console, aka the PlayStation 3, would be released in 2006. And while the reception for it was mixed results at best, especially for the early games released, it still sold a lot of units. And for a company like Sucker Punch, it would allow them to work on another famous video game that they've been developing for a while now, known as the Infamous series. What about the other games that Sucker Punch was working on, like Sly? Well, with Infamous looking to be the new priority thanks to the PS3's release, Sucker Punch wanted our sneaky raccoon thief to go out with a bang. However, they only had till the end of 2005 to release the game, only 1 year after the release of Sly 2. So how did Sly 3 fare? Okay, so before we even dive into the story of Sly 3, we need to read the comic issue number 2 for Sly that was released with this video game if you had the games at the time when it came out in 2005. So for the beginning of the story, we're about 1 year removed from the events of Sly 2. With Clockwork no longer a threat, Sly and the gang have been laying low recently, recovering physically and mentally from everything. So, during this downtime, Sly goes to a prison where he meets old colleagues like Sir Riley, Ms. Ruby, and Mugshot keep him in mind later. And then finally the man he's looking for, McSweeney, the brawn to his father's old gang. And after a briefly intense conversation, Sly learns from McSweeney about the secret vault on an island known as the Cooper Vault, hiding all the treasure there. Sly, along with Murray, then goes to check on Bentley, who's still in the hospital. And after a brief scuffle with Interpol guards, they bring Bentley out of the hospital. Sly then goes over to Carmelita's apartment to steal the files for the island so that they can figure out how to get to the island. And Carmelita is now bloodlusted in capturing Sly, so she hires a corporate team of mercenaries to help her in tracking down and capturing Sly once and for all. And while things seem to be picking up for the Cooper gang, with Sly and Bentley having the documents for Kaine Island and Bentley working on a new tricked out wheelchair to help them maneuver through the environment, they are suddenly thrown a major wrench in the plan. Murray, having feel that the last few events that happened to the gang haven't been his fault, namely Bentley's legs being crushed after Neela crushed them, Murray leaves the Cooper gang and travels the world to find peace within himself. much to the dismay of Sly and Bentley, who still feel like it wasn't Murray's fault about the events that happened. And that's how the comic ends, and with that, it brings us to the beginning of Sly 3, Honor Among Thieves. So, now we begin the story properly, guys. We start off on Kaine Island, where after a series of events, Sly gets captured by Dr. M and is about to get eaten alive by his monstrosity of a monster. It's in that moment that Sly's life flashes before his eyes, and he thinks about everything that led up to this journey with him getting almost eaten alive and the Cooper Vault job. So we flash back to basically what happened at the end of Sly Comic 2, but this time it's actually in the game. Sly realizes that he needs Murray back, along with maybe some other team members to help him. So, we start off in Venice, Italy with Sly and Bentley, but we have to get Murray back on the team now, because trying to get into that vault without him is going to be near impossible. Murray had traveled the world during this time period to find peace within himself, and came across a mystic known as the Guru. Keep him in mind later. Murray works with the Guru in pulling off a bunch of spiritual tasks, and this one task requires Murray to go back to Venice so that he can make the black water run pure, aka clean out all the rivers and water wheels in Venice, which have been flooded with tar recently. So, in what is arguably the best area to play in Sly, Sly and Bentley journey through Venice, Italy, and do everything they can to get Murray back on the team by stopping Venice from being drowned in tar by this Italian mob boss known as Don Octavio, a former opera singer who turned to a life of crime after opera became very unpopular in Italy. And so, despite being seen and, caught in public a few times with this dude, Sly Bentley and along with Murray managed to stop Don Octavio through intricate planning, and Murray rejoins with the gang afterwards. Carmelita was also in the area too, because of course she is, shaking my head. So at first, even though Murray's glad to be back in the gang again, Murray is also feeling a bit down and upset with himself because he just basically felt like he abandoned the Guru. So Sly Bentley managed to take Murray back to the Australian Outback so that they could talk to the Guru about, potentially breaking off his training for a while and maybe even help him with the Cooper Vault job. Aha! But, much to their surprise, the Australian Outback was being dug up by a bunch of cold and heartless miners for no good reason, like they were destroying everything. And apparently, through digging and mining, they captured the Guru and locked him up for safekeeping just so they could dig through the area as well. And so, yet despite this chapter not being one of my favorites in this game, in fact, I would go as far as to say still my least favorite in the entire series, we still managed to do what we can to break the Guru free from prison and also help him restore the Australian Outback back to its former glory, while also taking out this intimate object that the Guru's been trying to deal with, known as the Mask of Dark Earth. But in order to get the Guru on our side, we have to destroy this mask once and for all. So again, through a crazy series of events that I'm not going to go too deep on, basically, the Cooper game manages to destroy the mask, but before we got some Rule 34 service with Carmelita in the process of doing so. So yeah, basically, the mask got on Carmelita. Carmelita became very big, much to, oh my goodness, Sly's face. So yeah, Carmelita got really big. Then they decided, they had to take her to a different section of the Outback where they could basically fend her off long enough for the mask to come off and that they can destroy it. But luckily, they didn't have to destroy it because Carmelita's mercenaries, at least some of them, managed to destroy the mask for us, but they ended up dying in the process. Rest in peace, fellas. You were brave and honorable. With the mask destroyed and the Australian Outback returned to its former glory, the Guru joins the gang without hesitation. Next up, we go to Holland, because now that we have the Brawn of our team back and now a Mystic on our team, the next big thing that we need, apparently according to Bentley, is a RC specialist. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit confused about this because it really to me seemed like that they were trying to downplay Bentley's abilities in this game, and that could tie into another point that I'm going to talk about later with this game. But again, I just do not fully believe that Bentley would not be able to come up with some type of RC chopper or RC card that could help, get through the vault. But I think what they were trying to get at was that Bentley couldn't do it himself. Again, which I think is a lot of BS, but that's just me. But anyway, Bentley says that they need an RC specialist to help him out. So they go to Holland because he's been chatting with this, basically like this black market online mechanic, basically, known as Penelope. Penelope initially refuses the offer, feeling that she only works for the best, but the Cooper gang was willing to prove that they were the best. But her definition of best being the Aces competition. Basically a biplane fighting arena in which, you know, hundreds of people gather together to shoot each other down in planes. So the Cooper gang was willing to be up to the task in order to gain Penelope on this side. It's also in this chapter that we get to see familiar faces like Dimitri, who I forgot to mention we saw in episode 1 of this game too, and Mugshot? Wait a sec. Aren't you supposed to be locked up? Either way, yeah, basically, we have to deal with those guys, but the main baddie of this area is actually the Black Baron, the boss of Penelope, and the man behind this whole Aces competition. We managed to win the Aces competition, and after a brief fight with the Black Baron on a biplane, we learned that the Black Baron is actually Penelope? What? Having been relieved that she no longer has to put up the facade of the Black Baron, she joins the gang without question and treats the gang to, you know, basically a whole week of Holland, just touring them around the whole area. So after the events of Holland, you know, we move on to our next task, which is getting another gang member, because apparently Bentley claims that his bombs are not strong enough to destroy anything in Dr. M's fortress, which again, I don't buy, because this man literally did a lot of this stuff himself in Sly 2. You know, and it feels like they really downgraded this dude in this game. They upgraded him and they downgraded him, and I'll talk about that later, but yeah. We need a demolition expert who actually is very good with explosives. But the man that Bentley suggests is much to the shock of everyone. The Panda King. Yes, the man who was responsible in aiding one of Sly's greatest enemies in not only killing his father, but basically, you know, forcing Sly into the orphanage and stealing the pages of his Thieves Raccoonist book. Sly obviously says this is a grave mistake, but Bentley firmly believes that the Panda King is not as big of a threat as he used to be, you know, considering that he's mellowed out in recent years. Because now he's literally in China just like resting to himself, and like stuck in a mind trance in a way. But, you know, it's just crazy to me because, like, you know, again, this is one of Sly's greatest enemies, and even though I played Sly 3 first, if I had gotten Sly 1 first and then played Sly 3, I would have been absolutely more blown away at this. So the gang manages to reach Panda King. They try to talk to him, you know. Panda King initially did not want anything to do with the Cooper gang, considering their obvious history. But the Panda King and the Guru had such a connection because of their spiritual centers. So, like, it was just like, you know, there was a bit of respect there, which allowed the Panda King to want to actually talk to the Cooper gang at least. But the issue is, the Panda King did not want to join the Cooper gang, and it wasn't just the fact for, you know, the history, it was also because of the fact that he was low-key grieving in a way. Because the reason why he was stuck in that trance is because he literally was in a self-depressed state because his daughter Jane King got captured by this evil tyrant known as General Sal, and is about to be forced into a marriage that she doesn't even want. And somehow this game only got bumped up to E10 plus rating this time. So, in exchange for basically helping his daughter and saving her life, and the Panda King's life as well, he will help us out with the Cooper Vault job. Now, initially Sly doesn't want anything to do with the Panda King, and obviously, you know, Sly still bent on what happened 3 years ago. It's basically, I low-key think he wanted the Panda King to suffer the way he suffered, but Sly is not that type of person to begin with. So, and I think Sly obviously understands, you know, like, there's bigger problems here, and there's more at stake than just, you know, the petty rivalry that these two have. There's a woman whose life is about to be ruined completely. So, again, you know, even though we see the Panda King and Sly fight the urge to kill each other throughout this chapter, you know, it's the fact, what gets to me is the fact that Panda King actually seems more at peace and he's more calm about stuff this time around. I mean, he literally helped Murray get the van back because Murray treated the van like his daughter, which touched the Panda King for obvious reasons. Even Penelope and Bentley are treating the Panda King with a lot of respect and love and appreciation and understanding of the situation. Only one who's literally having a tough time with Panda King is Sly himself. But again, that's understood though. But somehow, someway, they managed to hold off long enough and trust each other long enough for the main goal at hand. Plus, you even see the Panda King show remorse over what happened years ago, which makes me think that maybe there's another theory about Sly 1 that we don't know about, that maybe Clockwork had to force the Panda King into something. But we'll talk about that in another video if you guys want. But yeah, so basically, through what is arguably the greatest chapter, and without a doubt the greatest chapter in the franchise, Sly and the gang pull off a daring heist while also having to deal with what is arguably the greatest villain in the entire franchise, who to me submitted his status as a wicked little sausage with this comment about Jing King.
But she doesn't want to marry you.
She's a woman. She doesn't know up from down.
But we managed to defeat him and steal his treasure, and we also get to see Carmelita absolutely stick it to this guy. And with Jing King safe and her life secured and safe, Panda King goes to help the Cooper gang. Now we're in the final world before we get to the Cooper Vault job. Blood Bath Bay. This world is absolutely lawless and it's crazy to be around and be in. But the only reason we're here is because we have to help out Dimitri, who helped us out back in Holland a couple episodes ago. We managed to help Dimitri get his scuba diving gear back, while also having to stop this deadly dangerous pirate who captured Penelope in the process. So, we managed to do all that, and it's in this chapter that we start to see Bentley's jealousy of Sly start to come to fruition now, with Penelope insensitively comparing the two, which is basically apples to oranges in my opinion, but still, it is what it is. The two still managed, to work together long enough in which they both basically become boyfriend and girlfriend at the end of the chapter, which was very heartwarming to see. So again, through all the chaos that we went through, we defeat Captain Lafouille, and we managed to get a ship out of it too, which apparently is going to help us when we get to Kaine Island. And now, here we are, back at the point of the game that we started at, getting crushed to death and about to be eaten alive by this giant monster. And it's through this moment of where his life flashes before his eyes that Sly realizes that this Cooper Vault job wasn't as big as he wanted it to, or it wasn't as important to him as he thought it would be. I think the one thing that he wanted more than anything else was Carmelita, because without Carmelita by his side during those adventures, the missions were basically just boring heists. They had no value to him whatsoever. And plus, considering all the danger that he put himself and the gang through, it's at this point that Sly realizes that if he just has a chance to see Carmelita one more time, he would do everything he can to make it work. But he's about to die. Oh hey, Carmelita's here, and she brought her mercenaries too. So Carmelita manages to stop the monster from eating Sly, though the game over screen, if you see that, is actually really dark. But yeah, Carmelita defeats the monster. The monster throws Sly, then Carmelita and Dr. M get into it for a bit. Then, the rest of the gang see Sly, they take him up, he's suffering from a massive concussion. So basically the rest of the gang tries to help Sly get inside the vault and get his cane back. So again, after another series of crazy events, we start to learn a bit about Dr. M after he and Sly meet in the air. We learn from this brief encounter that Dr. M was actually the brains to Sly's father's gang, and Sly initially doesn't want to believe it at first, but then, you start to piece together the situations, and then, it makes a lot of sense now. So, but we'll talk more about that later. Right now, Sly gets the cane back from Dr. M, then he goes back to, the vault where he opens it, and Coop and Sly offers Bentley and Murray a chance to see the vault too, since they helped him along this journey as well. Three of them go inside the vault, but only Sly can, reach the inner sanctum and the entire inside of it, because he's literally the only one with the capabilities to. Not because he wants to go by himself, but because he literally is the only one with the capabilities. This also disappoints Bentley, because Bentley feels that, Sly just used him and Murray the entire time, which again goes back to the conversation with Dr. M, and how this ties into how Dr. M felt this way when he was in Sly's father's gang. he felt like he was being used, and Bentley was in that same predicament. But, because the way their lives turned out, Dr. M's relationship with Kaine Cooper was more so a business transaction, as to where with Sly and Bentley, they've been best friends since childhood. So the bond is completely different from that point. So Dr. M gets into a mini fight with Murray and Bentley. Bentley Murray managed to win, but Dr. M still, escapes and reaches Sly inside the inner sanctum for what is possibly the final battle of the entire franchise. Sly manages to defeat Dr. M in a fight. The two have a brief conversation about, the history and what brought him here. Then Carmelita shows back up again, because of course she does. Even though Carmelita and Sly are happy to see each other, and it looks like the two may actually try to talk out their differences, Dr. M wants Sly to suffer if he has to die in that vault. So he tries to shoot Carmelita, but Sly jumps in the way, protecting Carmelita, but harming himself, potentially, causing his concussion to get even worse. Lord, please no. Please no. Carmelita, angry at this, shoots down Dr. M and goes to check on Sly. We learn that Sly is now suffering from amnesia because he took one too many hits to the head. Carmelita, in an interesting twist of fate, actually lies and says that Sly is her helper in, solving cases and crimes. What? What? The honest cop from the entire game who never lies about anything lied because she wanted Sly to be with her finally. And while it is sweet in its own way, you can't help but feel like it's slimy how, Carmelita did that. But then we're gonna find out later what else happened afterwards. But yeah, so, Bentley reaches the inner sanctum to try to get to Sly, afterwards, the vault falls apart. Dr. M refuses to leave the vault because he spent his life lusting over the Cooper fortune, so he gets crushed by all the stalagmites and rocks falling on him, killing him. Murray manages to get Penelope and Bentley out of there in time, and round up the rest of the gang. And, they search the island trying to find Sly, only to realize that Sly did not want to be found at all. Sly was done with the thieving business. And as a thank you for all the help that everyone gave him over the years, Sly leaves the vault, leaves a slight opening for the vault, and allows the rest of the gang to take the treasure that's inside there as a thank you for all the help they gave him over the years. With enough money to last a lifetime, the team goes on about their lives afterward. Dimitri returns to the scuba diving life, Panda returns to China to be with his daughter, Murray and the Guru go back to Australia so that Murray can finish his training. Then Murray goes on to become a very popular, drag racer. And Bentley and Penelope are in a relationship looking to be together for the rest of their lives. But wait, what about Sly and Carmelita? Well, Bentley, while on a reconnaissance job to see what happened to Sly, sees Sly and Carmelita holding hands together on the balcony. And as usual, in a very slick, sneaky way, Sly turns around and winks at the camera, showing that his amnesia was all a fake just so he could be with Carmelita. And that, my friends, is how Sly 3 ends. Sly 3's story, while still a good one, is ultimately the worst story of the entire trilogy. While there was a lot of potential going into it, it either goes to waste or somehow messes up the continuity somehow. Like, Mugshot's supposedly in jail, yet he still competes in the Aces competition. Also, the flashback sequence I felt was done improperly, and it kinda confuses you, because let me tell you something, as I was reading my script, it just was confusing me the way they went about the story in a way. But enough of the story. What do I feel was done improperly with the flashback sequence? So, I felt that showing the characters at the beginning of the game causes the game to lose its shock value. Oh my goodness, Panda King joined the gang, or, we have to work with Panda King. Even, because we technically heard his voice and saw him launch a rocket in the beginning of the game, it loses that shock value that we had, seeing him. Even with someone like Dimitri, who we had problems with in Sly 2 because of the whole Clockwood situation, we saw him at the beginning of the game help us, and we even heard his voice, so that ruined the surprise for us too. I think that they should have kept those two a secret until we got further into the game. That way, when they join the team, it makes it much more shocking to us. In fact, there's a secret video hidden in this game that I felt would have tremendously helped this story out much better. But, it just, that's for up interpretation. Another thing I'd like to point out in this game that could have been touched upon is Bentley's jealousy of Sly and how they could have used it for Dr. M to get a hold of Sly. To get a hold of Sly and Bentley's relationship in this game. I say, because to me, it felt like throughout the game the developers wanted to create conflict between the two, but they were like too scared to go through with it. We see moments, but it's not acted upon enough in this game, I feel. I feel like embrace it. Have Bentley become more upset with Sly after each job is pulled. And then maybe have a moment where Bentley, confronts Sly about their roles in the group. Sly's obviously feels differently because Sly loves Bentley and he knows without Bentley, none of this would be possible without him. So that would snap Bentley out of it, and then Bentley would be more, interested in, defeating Dr. M and helping Sly, get his family inheritance. Because, at the end, Sly still gave his inheritance away. So, I would have loved to see something like that in the game. Another thing I'll talk about in this game is the idea of gaining a new gang member rather than defeating one to gain an advantage in the story. I like this concept a lot because it allows the story to breathe a bit and not be redundant, but at the same time, I kind of feel like I missed that overarching story that Sly 1 and Sly 2 had. Even though I still love how refreshing Sly 3 is compared to the other games, it just Sly 3 at times can feel a bit disconnected, especially if you're a hardcore gamer, but that's just my personal taste. Another issue I have with the story is that there's obvious points in this story that it's at its very peak, but it's also at its very lowest valley as well. It's just there's so much good in this story, but there's so much bad in it as well that just makes the story average at best in my opinion. And lastly, why do we keep getting caught in this game? Octavia sees us, we intentionally get into a bar fight with the miners, Mugshot spots us, General South straight up committed a damn near home invasion on us, Carmelita spots us in damn near every episode, and the icing on the cake, Dr. M spotted us in the prologue of the game, which set the tone for the rest of the game. I feel like that the espionage stealth aspect in this game was lost, and it made us feel less like a thief. And now when I complete a mission, I just don't feel as accomplished beating it. That was one of the main gripes I had with Sly 3 after playing the first two games. It's now I don't feel as much of a thief as I used to anymore, and I don't feel as rewarded as I did claiming the book back in the first game or destroying the clockwork parts in the second game. As much as I love the Ancestor Gauntlet, mission or story per se, it just ultimately feels like there wasn't enough risk-reward ratio in this game. Yes, we got caught in Sly 2, but it wasn't intentional, or it wasn't frequently. When we got caught, it was literally because we least expected it. Neela betrayed us, and John Bassan saw through our disguises. I still like Sly 3's story because it's fresh, it's innovative, and it doesn't feel like the first two stories, but I feel like those little inconsistencies and continuity miscues just messes up what would have been probably the greatest story of the entire franchise. And it's with that, unfortunately, that I have to rank Sly 3 as the worst story we gotten in the trilogy so far. Still a good one, but just not as good as Sly 1 and Sly 2. Now, I'm going into the rest of this video basically expecting you guys to be annoyed with some of the things I have to say about this game, unfortunately. Just be prepared because the inconsistency thing is going to continue in the gameplay section. The gameplay to Sly 3 has its peaks and valleys, like the story. Sly is still fun to play as, Murray's still fun to play as, Bentley, to me, got the best damn upgrade in the entire game because the wheelchair gave him more mobility and the dude basically became like Professor X, aka Dr. Octopus, in a way with that wheelchair. But wait, we don't just play as Sly, Bentley, and Murray in this game. No. This game decides to pull a Sonic Adventure 2 type style of gameplay in which we play as 5 new characters in this game. And how do I feel about the gameplay of these characters? Carmelita is fun to play as because the ability to shoot and strafe and basically lock on to the target's fun. Mega jumping with her is also fun too. And if you do the 2-player mode, teleporting with her could be fun too. And I say the only other character that I actually even remotely liked playing as in this game was Penelope when she had the RC chopper. But that's literally it, as far as like gameplay wise for the characters in this game, that I liked at least. Because unfortunately, the other 3 characters that you play as in this game just are not good or fun to play as in this game. Guru is just basically, you know, just jump and press the circle button and manipulate a guard. That's literally it. Nothing else. Like, he can't attack because of his, you know, beliefs. And even then, he's still ramming guards' heads into the wall. Like, that ain't violent enough. Panda King, for me, moves way too slow in this game, and, you know, he's very sluggish in his attacks and also charging rockets, especially when you have multiple targets you have to attack, and the rockets take forever to load. It gets very, very annoying, and I've actually rage quitted one time, I think. Another time I planned on rage quitting was the damn RC car missions with Penelope. I said I like playing Penelope a bit, but it's literally for the RC chopper. The RC car is absolutely unbearable to deal with in this game. Absolutely unbearable to deal with. And Dimitri, by far the worst playable character in this game, and it hurts because I love Dimitri so much. But we only get 2 missions with him, because he's literally just scuba diving in the area. And it seems to me like the developers couldn't really justify how to have Dimitri like play in this game so late. To me, it really feels like the developers wanted this game to, you know, basically be like, you know, Sonic Adventure 2 in a way, in which you have all these characters which is supposed to up the ante and up the fun, but in a way it suffers a lot, you know. Sonic Adventure 2 to me perfected that formula, because at least with the characters in that way, they still had similar gameplays, you know, like Sonic with Shadow, you know, Rouge and, you know, Knuckles, and then, you know, Tails and Eggman. They all had similar ways of going about things, just something extra to them. Like, you know, Shadow has the Chaos Blast compared to Sonic's extra speed charge, you know, and it's just like, you know, stuff like that. Sonic Adventure 2 perfected that for me in a way. As to where Sly 3, a lot of these things just felt like it was just thrown in there just to make the game more fun, but it just ultimately suffers a lot in the process. Another issue I have with this game is the fact that clue bottles and treasures are gone in this game. Like, now you have no reason to explore the hub world unless you're very interested in the design of the world. Even though I still enjoy, you know, exploring the worlds that Sly offer, I just can't help but feel like without the clue bottles or treasures around, I'm literally just here just to do the missions. Like, that's it. The only worlds I really like in this game, the only worlds I even remotely like in this game and consider like my favorite of the bunch, is literally Venice, Italy, and China. And Holland I put up there as well. The Australian Outback is no fun to play in, and it doesn't even feel like a Sly world. It's literally just a world designed because we need to get Guru on our team. Bloodbath Bay is by far probably the second worst world in the entire franchise, along with Australian Outback, because again, we gotta get Dimitri on our side. And it sucks because with Bloodbath Bay and pirates being involved, this chapter should have been amazing. And again, another point I'm going to talk about is the fact that this game's held in the daytime for some of this game, which again really takes away the fun gameplay aspect of being a thief. Instead, you know, we're actually out here trying to pull off some action stuff. Also, another thing to talk about with the whole Bloodbath Bay thing, the pirate ship segment. Oh my gosh, I absolutely hate the pirate section in this game, and it's also insult to injury, because this section of the game is supposed to be where you get the most coins at, and even then you got the power-ups that you need anyway. The economy in this game is so broken, you know, it's so broken. Like, the stuff that you need, you have to grind pickpocketing at the beginning of the game in order to get everything that you want or need. But the prices, thanks to inflation, is almost ridiculously high. Higher than usual compared to what the Sly 2 had to offer. Like, bruh, like, it does not make any sense whatsoever to me. Another thing I'll touch upon in the gameplay section is the Kaine Island. I do like the island. I just wish we had a chance to explore it, you know, freely and open-handedly. And I know with, you know, the ability to, like, glitch a game, that we could actually attempt to explore the island by ourselves, but it's only if you get that glitch correct, but that's literally it. As for the other gameplay sections of the game, we have this 2-player mode, but in all honesty, it's like, you know, it's hit or miss, depending on what games you play. Like, the only game I think I remotely like playing in 2-player mode is the Sly and Carmelita segments, because my brother and I played that all the time growing up. Everything else, it's like, you could take it or leave it, basically. Like, I do not care for the hacking mission. I already said my grievances about the pirate section. Again, another gameplay aspect is that at least now you have the ability to, if there's one thing about the gameplay that is actually a huge plus, we can replay the missions that we actually like in this game. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. You also have, you know, the treasure maps where you can search for treasure in each different area of in each different world of Sly, which I think is another fun gameplay aspect to play. I could even say that I actually did like the training sessions because it provides extra missions and extra stuff to do in the game, but that's literally it. As far as the gameplay, as far as my overall feelings on the gameplay of Sly 3, like the story, it's hit or miss. There's stuff I really like in the gameplay, and then there's stuff I really hate about the gameplay. It's just another inconsistent, it's another, you know, inconsistent situation for me with this section of the game. And it's very weird saying that because, like, I didn't feel this way when I played Sly 1 or Sly 2. Yes, there were bad moments in those games, but they weren't, like, overblown or like, oh my goodness, what are they doing? It literally just felt like, this could have been done better in my opinion, but, you know, it is what it is. In this game, it really feels like, you know, like, what are they doing? That's how I feel with the bad moments in Sly 3. So overall, the gameplay in Sly 3 isn't as good as Sly 2 and at times Sly 1 in my opinion. Finally, a section of this video where I can be overly positive about something. Let's just get this out the way. If you love the art to Sly 2, you'll love Sly 3's art. Sly 3's art is amazing and is by far the best in the entire series in my opinion. And you may wonder how, since Sly 2 and Sly 3's art style is practically the same thing, right? Well, Sly 3's art has a bit more movement in the 2D cutscenes, making it much more pleasing to the eye. Plus, the line work and anatomy on the characters is much more refined this time around. Something like that may seem minor to some people, but it really does make a difference. Also, the voice actor performances continue to impress. Kevin Miller as Sly is great. Although some of the lines he says does come off as a bit wooden or cheesy at times, it's not too often. Matt Olson continues to be an OG, voicing OG Bentley. Chris Murphy as the Murray, even though he went back to a Sly 1 voice in this game, which can be jarring for some, but I still considered that, you know, actually it was a nice detail that they put in. That Murray losing his confidence caused him to go back to his Sly 1 voice in a way before gaining it back. And I can appreciate that attention to detail. In fact, I can hear a combination of Sly 1 and Sly 2's Murray voice in Sly 3. Like, you still hear that high-pitched voice, but then you still hear like the deep baritone heroic voice. It's just a nice mixture and blend of it, you know. So that's my opinion on Murray's voice. At least I don't know how you guys feel. As for Carmelita, she has a new voice actor again. But to me, this is low-key the best one she's had in my opinion. There's more passion in her line delivery and the accent is back as well. And like, you can feel the passion and energy in Carmelita in this game. Probably the most we've had in any of the games that she's had a VA in so far. The other acting performances in this game are also really great too. You know, Mugshot, Dimitri, Dr. M. They all deliver. Don't need to go into further detail about that. And as far as the art goes for the game, like the 3D game, still stellar, very stellar indeed. Like I said, you know, even though I have an issue with, you know, certain worlds and how they portray in a Sly game, you cannot deny that these are some of the best and most intricately designed worlds that Sly's had to offer so far in these first 3 games. Like, literally, like, when I first played the Venice, Italy mission, it makes me want to go to Venice. Like, I'm already making plans, you know, to go to Venice one of these years, and, you know, it's just, when a video game is enough to make you want to travel somewhere because of how beautifully designed it is, you know it's well done. Even the designs of all the new characters that we get in this game, good or bad, are well done. It's like not overly done or not underly done. It's like perfectly seasoned chicken, if I had to describe that. And lastly, let's talk about the soundtrack in this game, guys. This soundtrack to me is the most rewarding and action-packed soundtrack that we've had in a Sly game. You know, and again, it works to its advantages and it works to its disadvantages. Again, continuing the theme of inconsistent. I love a lot of these tracks in Sly 3, and they're some of the best the franchise had to offer. In terms of like the Venice theme, which I've talked about many times in this game. The main credit theme is still pretty good too. You know, the other Venice themes are good. I love Holland's theme. China's theme I think is underrated. And Ancestors Gauntlet, by far one of the best freaking themes in this entire franchise because of how rewarding it sounds. Like, bruh, there's so much about this soundtrack to unpack. And even then, like I said about the other soundtracks, I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it justice. But on occasion, we'll have a dud with the soundtracks, like the Australian Outback, which I don't care for, and Bloodbath Bay. Again, they're not bad soundtracks, I just feel like they don't fit the theme of Sly, and it starts to feel like Sly 1 territory, where they're just there just to be there. And it's not every soundtrack in this game that's like that, you know, it's just like, and you know, and the ones that feel, and there's a couple of there just to be there soundtracks that I actually like in this game, like Lemon Rage. All the other ones, they're just serviceable at best for me, you know. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them that's serviceable as best, but again, I only have a specific set of soundtracks I like from this game. As to where Sly 2, I loved almost every soundtrack in there, you know, but Sly 3, like I said, at its best moments, it's better than Sly 2 in terms of what it offers. Okay guys, so as usual, we got through the 4 main categories, so now let's get into the pros and cons of this game. First up, the pros, aka the highs, aka the positives of this game. There's a lot of good to take away from this game. For starters, like I said, some of the best worlds and chapters in this entire franchise, some of the best villains in this entire franchise. The OG Bentley with his wheelchair is one of the best things that happened to this series. Plus the ability to, you know, scope out the whole area. On top of that, you actually know who has a mission and who doesn't have a mission, as to where compared to Sly 2, you didn't know who had a mission and who didn't have a mission. Also, you have some of the best and most memorable missions in this game as well. I also love the ability to replay the missions in this game. The 2-player mode I have, you know, again, the Sly and Carmelita 2-player mode I actually prefer over the other 2-player modes. And Carmelita's voice acting in this game is by far my favorite in this game. Again, I like a lot about this game. But unfortunately, let's talk about what this game also messed up on. Okay, so like I've been saying throughout the game, this game at its high highs is the best it's been, but at its low lows it's the worst it's been. So, for starters, I do not like the way this story is told, and it messes up some of the continuity, like the flashback ruins surprise characters, the mugshot situation, the Bentley Dr. M potential. Like, again, there's a lot of missed targets that could have made this game a whole lot better in my opinion, but you know, it just goes missed. Also, another thing I don't like about this game is the fact that we don't have clue bottles or treasures no more, which to me was a lot of fun to do, and was a nice side quest that we could do without having to worry about the main gameplay all the time. Again, also like I said, while this game has some of the best chapters in the franchise, it also has some of the worst chapters in this franchise, and the worst worlds in this franchise. And even though I can still credit them for at least putting their heart and soul into making the worlds pop out more in this particular game, I still can't get over Bloodbath Bay or the Australian Outback. Also, we have what is without a doubt one of the worst villains in this entire franchise. In fact, I will call him the worst villain in the entire franchise. Also, like I said, the gameplay aspects are certain things I don't like about it, like how some of the new characters are controlled, the sip segment easily, the other section of the minigames I don't care for, and the last thing I'll touch upon that I really don't care for in this game is the frame rate. Yo, trying to play this game with the frame rate, especially in 2-player mode, is absolutely bad. And it's crazy to me because, like, when you play the story itself, the frame rate's fine, but it's just in 2-player mode that the frame rate is absolutely atrocious. And I'm not sure what went wrong in trying to make that, you know, thing possible, but it just did apparently. So Sly 3. what a very, very interesting game. It's definitely one of the more interesting games in this franchise. So, and with everything I said about it, what's my overall opinion on Sly 3? At its very best moments, Sly 3 is without a doubt the best game in the entire series. But at its worst moments, it's easily the worst game in the entire series. And if I had to describe Sly 3 in one word, it's inconsistent. The story, while a good one, constantly makes tiny mistakes that causes it to lose itself at times. I also feel like this game had too much straightforward action for what a Sly game should have. You're constantly getting caught a lot more in this game as well, making the whole being a thief thing feel less important. I mean, shoot, like, I don't feel nowhere near as accomplishing a job or a mission that I'm supposed to do, because I just feel like, you know, getting caught so many times just robbed that reward system for me. It's especially notable after playing the first and second game and then going into the third one, and you know, it's just like I just don't feel like I feel something different when I play Sly 1 and Sly 2 that I get when playing with Sly 3. And while I thoroughly enjoy everything this game offers, it ultimately just feels like a bloated version of Sly 2 in a way, you know, just with a bit more stuff added to it to make it seem, you know, like new. The 1 year time frame for development to me was just not enough for this game to explode the way it did. Had they had another year to work on this game, Sly 3 is without a doubt more respected in the Sly community, and I think it's heralded as one of the greatest PlayStation 2 games of all time. But instead, it's a piece of potential that ended up going to waste for a lot of gamers out there. And if I had to describe how I feel about Sly 3 compared to the rest of the games, it's the way that I would compare the Spider-Man movies that were by Sam Raimi featuring Tobey Maguire. You have the first Spider-Man movie, or aka Sly 1, a great game slash film that while it has its moments of, you know, like being cheesy and corny at times, it's still a fun game or movie to watch. Sly 2, aka Spider-Man 2, is without a doubt the best in the entire series because it was much darker, it felt more personal, and you really felt like the stakes were very high. Sly 3, aka Spider-Man 3, had a lot of stuff going for it, but it just wasn't able to land everything properly. So, it brings to the conclusion of what my final scores for this game is. For the story, I give it a 7. For the gameplay, I give it a 6. For the art, I give it a 9. And for the soundtrack, I give it an 8. So, the total score for Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves is 7 out of 10. Sly 3 is still a fun game to play. But when you compare it to the first two games, especially the second game, it just doesn't hold up the way it should have. Regardless though, Sly 3 is still a great game to play. It still has the charm and dark story elements that will keep the viewer interested. Plus, like I said, the best moments in this game are by far the best in the entire franchise. And I dare to say, you know, definitely play this game for those moments and not the worst moments. And it is with that, guys, that we are done reviewing Sly 3. What's your opinions on Sly 3, guys? Do you like this game? Do you hate it? Do you agree with some of the things I said? Do you disagree with some of the things I said? Let me know your comments and opinions in the comment section down below, and I'll get to them as quick as I can. I'm expecting this one to be very, very divisive in the comment section. But yeah, guys, but this was the Sly Cooper trilogy, but we're not done with Sly just yet. Nope, because 7 years later, we would get another game from Sly, and in this case, the game would be called Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. And how does that game compare to these first three that we talked about? Well, we're gonna find that out in the next Sly Cooper video that we do. So guys, I'll see you then. As always, guys, stay safe out there. You know, thank you always for tuning into my videos. It's your boy Sly Lancy, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.